Okay, we are now going to start classifying not only by number of terms, like saying a monomial, binomial, trinomial, polynomial. We're going to take how we learned standard form and we learned the highest degree, but now those degrees have a special name. So you're going to eventually have to say, I don't know, quadratic binomial, and you're going to have to name them by the number of terms they have that you've already learned, and what we're about to do, the degree name. All right, so if your degree was 0, this is called a constant. So an example of that, okay, so our example would be like 4. This is a constant. Because essentially we're saying, okay, well, this would be 4x to the 0. And what is x to the 0? It's 1. So this whole thing turns into just 4. Okay? Now, please don't confuse it. I'm not saying 4 times 4x to the 0. All right, our next one. If we had a degree of 1, this is linear. This stuff should be review, guys. All right, so for example, you would have 6x minus 3, meaning my highest value, the highest value of my exponent, which would be my degree, is 1. There's no x squareds, x cubes, x to the 10ths, or anything like that. It's just x to the first, so therefore it's linear. All right, this one's our favorite. If the highest degree is 2, we call this a quadratic. And an example, just making one up, x squared minus 4x plus 1. That's a quadratic. All right, moving along, we would then have 3. This is called a cubic. All right, so we could say 7x cubed minus 11. There's only one variable, x cubed, doesn't matter. That's the highest degree. Moving along to 4, we would say quartic. Think of 4 quarters, quartic. Okay, so then you could say x to the 4th minus 2x squared plus 5x minus 7. Okay, now these two, this quartic and this next one is called quintic. So think of quintuplets to help you think of quintic versus quartic. And then other people also mix up quadratic when I teach this to my Algebra 1 kids because they have 3 Q words, but there's no way anybody in our class should be mixing up quadratic with anything because we have done so many of those in class. All right, so I could simply say 3x to the 5th. There we go. That's a quartic. All right, now that's it. That is our list of things, but you guys know that you've seen polynomials that have a greater degree than 5. So for anything that is greater than 5, so I'm just going to say for any n, which is representing our degree, greater than 5, we just say it's the nth degree. There's no fancy name. Nth degree, meaning if I had 5x to the 10th plus 1, you would say this is a 10th degree polynomial, or even more precisely binomial, because there's 2 terms. So whatever that degree value is, you would say 6th, 7th, 8th, 100th degree. There's no fancy name for it. So make sure you have this whole chart down in your notes. It's really important. Now we're going to do a couple examples, and we're going to classify to the fullest, meaning we're going to classify the following by degree and term number. So this is the 100% complete way to classify a polynomial. All right, number 1, you have 12x to the 3rd minus x. Now, the degree name always comes first, so you're going to look at that and say my highest degree is 3. Go back to your chart. What was that called? Well, that was a cubic. A cubic what? There's 2 parts to this name. A cubic, and now we classify by term number. There's 2 terms. So back to the first video, a cubic binomial. All right. Number 2. 7x squared plus 3x minus 4. All right, my highest degree is 2, meaning it's quadratic. How many terms? 1, 2, 3. 3, so it's called a trinomial. Okay, number 3. X to the 7th minus 6x to the 5th minus 13. Well, my highest degree is 7, and I know on my chart anything greater than 5 doesn't have a special name, so it's just called the 7th degree. And now you have to classify how many term numbers. 3 again, so this is also a trinomial. Okay, so let's look at this example. What if I gave you... Okay, so this is a case where you cannot name it by degree. Do you know why? Well, I have an x and a y. You can't even put this in standard form. It doesn't matter that x is squared or y is to the first power. 2 doesn't come before that. X doesn't have any power over y to be first. But there's 2 separate variables, so all you can say is that this is a trinomial. You cannot name it. It's not the second, it's not the first, because there's 2 different variables. So which one are you going to name it in terms of? Okay? So I could always throw these curveballs in there right now, and you can just say trinomial, and then, you know, it can't be named because not in one variable, or 2 variables can't name degree, but it is a trinomial. All right, I'm going to give you, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to give you 4 more problems, and I'm going to write them all down now, and then you can give them a try and then see if you get them right. Sorry about that. I actually meant 5 more problems. Okay, go ahead. Try these 5 problems. Name them by degree first, and then how many term numbers they have. Pause this now, and then when you play it again, I'm going to post the answers for you. Okay, so this first one is called a quartic polynomial. 4 is your highest degree, and remember, if there's 4 or more terms, they're all just called polynomials. Okay, so here are the answers 5 through 8. So before I do 9, you have to remember something. The highest degree is this 5, so this is not in standard form. So before we name it, we need to put it in standard form. Now that we can, we're going to say, okay, well, this is a quintic, because the degree is 5. Polynomial, because it's 4 terms. This is something that really gets some people, because they just look at the beginning number, assuming that it would be quadratic, because you're assuming that it's in standard form, but you can't always do that, so you have to make sure. But I do expect all your answers to be in standard form.